Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're listening to us on the radio, please make sure you share with your friends and tell everybody you know, your people down the street, up the street, your friends, your family, everybody. Tell them tune into The Divide Mondays 2:30 to 4 p.m. on WRFZ 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. If you're listening online, please hit the like, share, and subscribe button and get this message out there because we want to have the conversations with you that you need to hear. And we're right here in your ear. So definitely share this video, share it on your friend's page, your family's page, and wherever else. Let's get into it. Over the weekend, I mean, we've had such a large amount of things happening so quickly. Like, first, we have right now, what's going on right now. Let's start into that with the new generation cartel down there in Mexico, burning stuff on fire, blowing stuff up, throwing grenades in supermarkets and all types of stuff. So their leader was taken out in a raid yesterday, and then the rest of his cartel members decided that they wanted to go on a terroristic spree. And that's what they're doing, setting cars on fire, terrorizing the community, and it was interesting because previously, what's her name? Claudia Sheinbaum, or whatever her name is, the president of Mexico, that lady, she was like, oh, no, they're not terrorist organizations. What do you mean? Of course, the cartels are terrorist organizations. They chop people up and dissolve their body in acid. Like, what do you mean? Like, they send people's body parts to their parents. What do you mean they're not a terrorist organization? Of course they are. And then you look at them blowing up these cars in the middle of the street, setting them on fire, going in and throwing grenades in supermarkets. Throwing grenades in supermarkets. If that's not terrorism, I don't know what is. So we look back just a couple of months, and Trump said, hey, let us send the U.S. military to help you with operations against the cartel. And she's like, no, we don't need to do that, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But they clearly did need to do that. I mean, they've got the west coast of Mexico on fire. They got the east coast of Mexico on fire. They're tearing everything up. They're tearing everything up. And it's very clear that Mexico, the federales and the regular police, they can't do nothing to stop them. They can't. And we have to have a conversation about that because that's how Claudia Sheinbaum got in power to be the actual president down there. What did 130-something people died that were running for president, were murdered? Like, you don't just walk into the presidency after 130-something people were murdered in Mexico. Come on now. It's no wonder she didn't want to get hard up on the cartels to begin with, because really the fact of the matter is, and it's very simple to see, is she's got some sort of agreement out there with the cartels. Like, who's stupid? Like, you'd have to be a fool after 130-something people were murdered, okay, that were running for president, and all of a sudden she becomes the president. Come on now, who's stupid, Unless she's got some magical, super powerful apparatus, military apparatus behind the scenes that are even more powerful than the cartel that put her in power, that we should really be worried about. Let's not have that conversation, because that's even terrible, a thought experiment. But now all of a sudden, people are like, oh, this is because the U.S. gave them the intelligence. It was the CIA that did all of this. Da, 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 da. First of all, this guy has been on the watch list, on the most wanted list for how long? Like, can we have the conversation about this? What's his name? El Mencho, however you say it. Like, this dude was a bad dude. He was a bad hombre. Like, this isn't the type of person that wants anything positive, So when we have these conversations about what's happened and transpired in Mexico over the last, 24 hours, not even that long, we need to talk about the fact that there were a ton of people saying, oh, no, Trump shouldn't be calling the cartels terrorist organizations. They're terrorist organizations. I don't know what you want. They terrorize the community. They murder whole buses of students and then bury their bodies in mass graves. What do you mean that these people aren't terrorists? What do you call that? Average Saturday afternoon at the golf course? Like, what is that even? You know, like you kidnap and kill a whole busload of kids and bury them in a pit. Like, what is that called? Is that not terrorism? What do you call that? War crimes? Like, what is that? What do you call that, right? Like, if that's not terrorism, I honestly don't know what is. Not really. And that's concerning, because you can ask people that are from these areas that have high cartel activity, are they afraid and are they concerned, safety-wise, if something pops off with them? And if you guys want to drop a comment, be part of the conversation, just say hi or drop an American flag or a thumbs up. Just do that, because all of that helps the algorithm, and I'll pop your comments up as they come in. I see you out there. Hey, how's it going? Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. All right, so as we talk about what's going on with the cartels, now the cartels are out there threatening airports in Mexico and stuff like that. They're telling Canadian citizens and American citizens to shelter in place. And we got crackpots like Don Lemon getting on his little internet stuff talking about, oh, well, this is all America's fault and America's bad for going after the cartels. Like, what do you even mean America is bad for going after the cartels? Do you know how they destroy people's lives, families, and businesses down there? Do you know how they extort people and individuals down there? Like, what are you even talking about? Like, these are not good people that are out there for altruistic reasons. Like, what are we doing? And why can't we have that conversation? Do you know how many people are raped, murdered, molested, kidnapped, you know, limbs removed, you know, organs harvested? Like, can we even talk about that? Like, this is very, 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 very concerning. Very concerning. So many people are out here saying so much stuff, and it's like, it's crazy. It's very, very crazy. And I'm sad that people are out here trying to say, oh, well, the cartels aren't that bad. It's because of the U.S. interfering. You mean to tell me that there is a whole narco military organization that controls 1/3 of a whole nation state, and you don't think that that's a problem? I'm sorry. I think that if a narcotics organization, a crime syndicate controls 1/3 of a city, that's a serious problem. So if they control 1/3 of a country, that is a very huge problem. And then you've got the president of them out there talking all types of, oh, well, you know, stuff is going on and stuff. When they moved her to a Navy carrier, they moved Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, to a Navy carrier for her own safety. Man, please, play in somebody else's face. Don't play in mine with that nonsense. I don't trust that, and I don't trust them. Okay? You can say, oh, well, she was moved to a Navy ship for her own safety. If a organization that is a criminal organization has enough power to destabilize 5 different provinces inside Mexico in multiple different cities and make the president flee to a Navy ship so that she isn't taken out, that sounds like a serious problem to me. I mean, I don't know, you know, maybe it's just me. How about you guys? Does that sound like it's a serious problem to you? Does that sound like an organization of crime that needs to be stopped? I mean, they scared the president so bad that the president went and got on a giant boat, a giant destroyer, to protect her from the cartel. You make it make sense. Now you tell me if every everyday citizen in Mexico has a Navy destroyer that they can get on so that they're safe from the cartel. Make it make sense. Like, nothing about that is providing safety and security for your own citizens. Now, all of these people, okay, mostly white liberals, let's be honest and very transparent, that were egging on all of these people in the Southwest, okay, and in California talking about, oh, Mexico is so great. Mexico is the awesomest. Mexico is the bestest. Y'all gonna go fight the cartels? Y'all gonna go save the people down there that have to deal with this nonsense? How many of these people that were out here in our streets waving all of these Mexican flags and stuff are going down to help the Mexican citizens? How many of them? I bet you not a one. Not a one of these people that were so avidly, Viva Mexico, oh, Mexico is the best, all of this. None of them are going to help these people. Okay. None of them are going to say, yes, let's get rid of the cartels. Let's topple the cart. Why? Why isn't that an issue? Is the safety and security of the average day people there not something that we should be concerned about? Is that not, do those people not matter? If Mexico was so great, if you thought Mexico was so fantastic, are the people of Mexico not worth your time to go defend them? Like, this is the problem. These are the serious issues. Like, you were out there tearing up our streets in America talking about, oh, all of this and all of that, Mexico, Mexico, Mexico. Now Mexico is being attacked by the cartels. Are you speaking out for Mexico and the cartels? No. But we've got people online that want to go at our country talking about, oh, it's America's fault that that's going on there. Do you not know the history of the war in Mexico with the cartels? Like, there used to be actual open warfare with the federal agents and the Mexican cartels, but that stopped because the cartels were killing too many of the federales. Are you serious? Like, they just killed how many mayors in the last year? Okay, and can we talk about that though? Can we talk about that? They just recently killed a mayor in Mexico. I forget which governorship. They killed him. I think it was Chihuahua. I'm pretty sure it's Chihuahua. Don't count me on that one, but go check it out. But they killed that man. That man was like, please, 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 President Claudia Sheinbaum, please do something about the cartels. We're trying to preserve peace and prosperity in our territory, the province, state, whatever you want to call it. We're trying to preserve safety for our people, and the cartels are running crazy, and they're going to kill me. And that's what he said. And then she said, no, everything is fine. You'll be all right. Nothing is going on down there at all. And then what? They killed this man in broad daylight, like it was nothing. But these people aren't terrorists? I don't know. Maybe I've never seen a terrorist or anything about a terrorist, or don't know what terror is, because if they're not terrorists, I don't know what to tell you. Then you got all these people out here talking about, oh, well, it's because of Trump and this and that and the third. Okay, let's be honest. Let's be very honest. How in the universe do you have a criminal enterprise that is that powerful? How does that work? How does that work? Somebody just asked, how is that America's business? Now, when I see you say America, I believe that you mean America like the United States of America, not like Bad Bunny was saying America, meaning the whole continents of the Americas. So when we say, how is that America's business? Let's dig into that. So we've got a lot of factories in Mexico, especially on the border in places like, what do you call it? Tijuana, which is under attack right now. Okay. And this, that, and the third. So these are important conversations that we need to have. We do a lot of business with Mexico. I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think it's greater than 1/3 of their exports come to us. I don't want to say 2/3 because I don't want to be wrong, but it might be 2/3. I can't remember, but I know for a fact it's greater than 1/3 of their exports come here. It might be 2/3. We're their largest trading partner. That's what I know for 100% sure. So these are the types of conversations that we need to be having, like what's going on down there? What can be done about this issue and so forth? Because they extort businesses all the time. They extort businesses all the time. It's like some stuff that you would see in the news or in a movie or something like that. And clearly people don't care, and they don't believe that it's real because they're not experiencing it. Maybe somebody should talk to somebody that lived in one of these states that were controlled by the cartels. Like, I mean, have you talked to anybody that lived there? Like, how do they feel about that? How do they feel about the cartels running the areas and stuff like that? You know, I mean, these aren't altruistic individuals. out for the betterment and uplifting of the community. What do you call them people? The Zapatos. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Drop the comment of what the name of the group is. The people that were trying to be like freedom fighters in Mexico, the Zapatas or whatever the case is. Yeah, so this is important. These are serious conversations that we need to have. What's going on in Mexico not only affects trade, but it also impacts commerce. It really does, because we do a lot of commerce with them. So I don't know what our largest import from them is now, but we got a lot of factories and stuff down there, and it's serious. So we need to keep our eye out on that. But in other news, we also have stuff going around like the guy who was trying to kill the president, right? Like, you're like, oh, who, that other guy? No, it's a new guy. Just over the weekend, a new guy tried to kill the president, broke into Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and a can of gasoline, okay? Talking about he's going to set stuff on fire and blow stuff up. Apparently, his parents reported him missing. His mom reported him missing on Saturday. Like, how do you report a grown man missing, right? Like, young adult, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, you just report him missing. Why was he missing? What made you think he was missing? Right? These are the questions that we have to start asking. Because if you listen to the people, the police and FBI on the television, they're like, it's all suspicious because he was able to get inside of the compound. Well, how did he get inside the compound? Did somebody let him in the compound? Like, the security down there is extremely and aggressively heavy. Like, this is so crazy that this is even going on, and he just randomly disappeared. Like, what? Nobody just randomly disappears, right? Like, there's always some sort of circumstance or something is going on that makes somebody go away or something like that. But the key thing to me is that his mother reported him missing on Saturday. What did she know? What was going on with this individual? Was he having a mental break? Was somebody in his ear telling him to do stuff? Was he commissioned by somebody else? Because that's real unnatural behavior. Just going in and breaking into, now I guess not even breaking in, right? Because the FBI said that they don't know how he got into the Mar-a-Lago compound. Gary Webb, was that the other guy? Somebody commented Gary Webb. Was that the other guy that tried to attack the president? I think they just sentenced him to life or death or something. He's going to prison now, all the way in prison. But anyway, this is important. Like, how does something like that happen? Do we have eyes on anything? And you know, and the crazy thing is our director of the FBI is all the way in Italy right now. So he's in Italy gallivanting about. I guess he says that he was going to some conferences or stuff like that. But he was in the videos and stuff with the men's hockey team because they got gold. And I guess he's a very big hockey enthusiast. I don't know, right? But I'm disappointed in him because I still haven't seen any of the people locked up that I want locked up. You know, like as far as being the director of the FBI, you've given us nothing. You know, I mean, they've done some basic stuff. You know, they have done a decent job at getting recovering some of these missing children. They've done a good job there. Credit where credit's due. They've done a couple of other things that they've done a real good job at. But the fact of the matter is nobody of any substance has been arrested by the FBI. Not Hillary, not nobody for them elections. And they keep telling us, somebody's getting arrested for them elections. We're looking into it, this, that, and the third. We've gotten the what do you call them? The voter records and all of this and all of that. And I don't care. I stop spinning my wheels until somebody's in prison, until there are people in prison over this. I'm not trying to hear nothing you're telling me, because it's a continued pattern of the federal government to promise us stuff that never materializes. This is very, very, very serious, you know? So, I mean, nobody's in jail for that. Nobody's gone after any of the people in the FBI that were spying on the churches. Nobody's gone to prison for Crossfire Hurricane. Nobody's gone to prison for whatever the other investigation was. I forget that, which was a fictitious investigation anyway. Nobody's going to jail for that. Nobody's going to jail for any of the no COVID, none of the COVID lockdown people, none of the Fauci, none of the executives from Pfizer or biotech or Bionet, whatever the other company is. This is the very serious thing. No, you've done nothing. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure he's done a great deal, right? But he's done nothing as far as I'm concerned. Nobody of any merit in relation to anything that we want them to go to prison for is going to prison. So where are they arrested? Where are they being arrested? This is a problem, and don't get me started on Pam Bondi, right? Because I can't even deal with her. She's the reason why Florida has red flag laws. Also, I don't like her because she's anti-Second Amendment, and I don't mess with none of that at all. So this is a serious conversation, though. So our director of the FBI is over there gallivanting at the Winter Olympics, whatever, man. That's not the biggest deal. But the fact that he hasn't arrested anybody is a problem for me. Like, had he been arresting people, I'd be like, okay, you can go to the Olympics. You know what I'm saying? You can go to the Olympics. I won't be mad at you. But I'm not happy with him. And I love him. I'm not happy with him at all right now. Haven't been for some time. But this is a conversation that we need to have, because why isn't he here now, right? Like, shouldn't somebody be investigating this? How did that kid get inside Mar-a-Lago? Like, even the FBI is like, it just doesn't make any sense. There's so much security here. You got the city, you got the county, you got the feds, you got the Secret Service. How could he possibly get inside? Well, yeah, that's something that we need to investigate, because it's very clear that it's a number of people that are going and doing things to try to harm the president. And this is a serious, serious issue, because we have many people that would like to take out the president. Now, I know many of you aren't the biggest fan of Trump or whatever the case is. Let me be very, very, very clear. Okay. If there were any harm to befall any American president, it would be a drastic, serious situation for the United States. It doesn't matter who the president of the United States is. So all these people, yeah, I want him gone, I want him dead, or whatever the case is, that is insane. Insane. Like, you don't care about the United States if that's what you want to happen, because you haven't thought that through, because you're being totally and completely selfish. And that's a serious, serious problem. And we can't talk about that. Why can't we talk about that? Well, we can't talk about that because that would be too much like right. That would be too much like right. Then we look at what's going on let's take another example separately of another level of government. Let's go to a local level of government. Let's go to a municipality. Let's go to New York City. But before that, we'll have that conversation. But real quick, you're listening to The Divide on WRFZ 106.3, Rochester Free Radio. This is The Divide with Marcus C. Williams. We are here in your ear having the conversations that you need to hear. We are the #1 conservative talk show in all New York State. Tell your friends, your family, share this out on your page, your friend's page, whoever's page. Tag some people, send it in some emails. Now, if you guys want to support the station, please go to Patreon. The station right now is in a fundraising drive. They're working on raising $6,000 to keep the station up, going, and blowing. So go to Patreon and then type in Rochester Free Radio, and you can donate to the station. If you want to help support the show and you're online, check out right here on the sides right there, or you can check out right below if you're vertical. Okay? Now, we're having a very important conversation about the different levels of governance and how things that shouldn't be let go awry just are going awry, it seems like. We've got Mandani in New York City, right? So Mandani, the communist, socialist, Muslim dude, right? Now, that's what he self-identifies as, Ugandan, African, right? The African Muslim foreign mayor of New York City. It's kind of crazy, but he promised to lower bus fare. He promised to make sure that everything else is going good in New York City and rents are lowered. Okay, so if rents are lowered, how's that going to happen? He said, well, we're going to lower the rents by taxing more of the wealthy people. Well, he doesn't have the power of taxation. That would go on the state level, right? So if that's on the state level, then who's he got to get that from? He's got to get that from Kathy Hochul, right? So she's got to put it through, the state assembly has to put it through, or whatever the case is. And what happened with that? Nothing happened with that. Kathy said, I'm not doing that because taxes are already high. So if I raise it on the millionaires and the billionaires, they're not going to fund my campaign, and my hubby won't be able to have his private yacht anymore. Some nonsense like that. I made that last part up, but it's about right. You know what I'm saying? So we have these conversations about what's going on in New York City, and he's promised all this free stuff, right? He promised to put the whole concept of rent, putting it down, right? But now he's talking about he's going to raid the teachers fund. He's going to raid the firefighters fund. He's going to raid the rest of the city workers fund. Socialism, communism, the warm collectivism that everybody loves so much, where you have to forcefully have your stuff taken from you and given to other people, because that's what he wants to do. That's what he's saying now. They've got to go and raid the city's rainy day budget, the rainy day fund. They've got to go after all of the pensions in the city, and they're going to take that money from those people and they're going to go disperse it all across to everybody else, because the city is in so much debt that it can't see it up from down. And that's a problem, because now he's talking about in the city, what he's going to do is raise the rate of property tax to 9 more percent. 9 more percent, already some of the highest taxes in the nation. Now he's going to raise it another 9%. Okay, well, you do that. What do you think is going to happen with the actual rents of the properties? The rents of the properties are going to have to go up. That's going to be a real simple thing, right? Property tax goes up, rents have to go up. That's how that works. Nobody's retarded. We know what's going on. That is clear and evident, and there's no two ways around it. So when that happens, we have to take a look and we have to say, okay, well, if he raises taxes 9%, how much does that going to average increase the actual cost of, let's say, home ownership? Perish the thought, because you can't even hardly buy a home, right? Maybe you're lucky if you get a condo in New York City. But how much is it going to raise the rent for average rents? And the answer is it's going to raise it a lot. It's going to raise it a lot. So when we have these conversations, we have to look at these knock-on effects. So let's say they raise the taxes, right? Let's say they do it to 9% or whatever. People will rather keep the homes vacant, keep the properties vacant, and take the tax write-off than get anybody in there that's paying under the actual market rate of these properties. We see it where I live right now. They just built all of this new construction. More than half of it is empty. Why is it empty? Because they'd rather take the write-offs than sell it, than rent it out to people that are paying under. That's how this stuff works. Can we have that conversation? No, we cannot. Why? We need to. So as we have these conversations that are ever so important, we have to go and we have to look at everything with open eyes. But people don't want to look at things with open eyes because everybody's so caught up in my team. Well, I'm Republican. Well, I'm Democrat. Well, I'm this. Well, I'm that. Listen, I am very much so a hardcore conservative. I am a Christian first and foremost and above everything else. Okay. And I'm an American nationalist. I believe in my country. I love my country. Okay. Because this is where I live. I'm not moving somewhere else. If you don't like America, move. I don't care. Like, it's crazy. I don't like a lot of the things, but I'm here to fix whatever's going on in my country. I hope you're willing to fix whatever's going on in yours. Okay. If not, leave. People are in this country that hate this nation, and that's crazy to me. But I bring that up because it's very simply that a lot of people get too tied up in these ridiculous nomenclatures of Democrat or Republican or whatever. And I'm like, at the top of the pyramid, they're all in it together. This isn't new news. Like when I was little, people used to know that. I don't know what happened. I think maybe Obama got in to be president, and then that concept went away. And now it's all my team, my team. And it's crazy because I saw Anna Paul Luna do she was in Congress, and I think this was last year in Congress. And she was asking, she said, well, she was on the floor. They said, gentlewoman from Florida, please speak. And she said, why are the Republicans and the Democrats working together to cover up for all types of misdeeds through funding inside of Congress? Because they have this funding, Congress, which they use to settle claims out of court and to pay off different people and to pay for lawyers that are coming at people that are in Congress. And they kill these things before they make it to the media or whatever. And that's a serious issue. Now, this is Anna Paula Luna, okay, asking this question. And they tried to basically shut her down, and it's a real thing. And it didn't always used to be that way. I believe it's called the Judgment Fund. And I started in 1956, right? So go look that up. Take a moment and look that up when the show's over. But this is important that we have these conversations because we look at so many things. And like I said, I'm a diehard conservative, diehard Christian, very pro-America. But one thing I'm not is stupid, So when I see all of this, Republican or Democrat nonsense, a lot of times I'm like, because I'm a Republican. I don't have any frets about saying that I'm proud to be Republican. I also know and understand that a lot of people that are out here claiming to be Republican are not Republican at all, not even in the least bit, And I'm not talking about rhinos. I'm talking about the light right, okay, LITE. The people that used to be Democrats, okay, and switched to the Republican Party, but are really liberal on most of the issues, or all of the issues in certain cases. This is a serious problem that is facing our nation, okay? We need to say, hold on, what's going on in our country? What is Congress actually doing? And how is it benefiting our country? And taking a look at it like this, let's just take a look at the Democrats right now, right? So the Democrat Party is falling to pieces, into shambles. That's not, nobody's missing that. Nobody's second guessing that. That's 100% what's happening, okay? Even their own people are getting out there on the TV and crying and bemoaning that fact. And if this voter ID thing does go through, there's going to be Democrat seats lost all across the nation because they don't care about voter ID. So there's a lot of stuff going on that shouldn't be going on. And we'll see exactly what happens in the election if this gets passed. But the SAVE Act is being delayed and all of this, when at the same time, you've got Mondani in New York City talking about, if you come out and you snow shovel with us, we'll pay you $19 an hour to snow shovel in New York City, but you've got to bring 2 forms of ID. You got to bring your identification and you got to bring your social security card or your birth certificate. Well, wait a second, sir. How do you have to do that when you're one of the same people that was up here talking about, no, there shouldn't be any voter ID? Now, I know people have different opinions on different things, but I need you to be consistent. I need you to be consistent because then I know where you stand. I don't want you to be wishy-washy. I don't want you to be politically fluid. I don't, what is going on here? One day you're like, there shouldn't be any voter ID. It makes it hard for people, blah, 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 especially minorities, blah, 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 blah. Kathy Hochul's good for that. And so is Gavin Newsom. We'll talk about him in a second. Hit the like button, hit the share button. It don't cost you nothing. Share this, get it out there. Okay. But as we have this conversation, he's in New York City talking about you need 2 forms of ID. 2 forms of ID. Now, let me tell you about New York City. New York City Council, and you can look this up, about a year ago, tried to pass a city law where illegal aliens can vote in local elections. That is not a story. That is not a fabrication. You go look that up if you don't believe me. Okay? And it got tossed out by the New York Supreme Court, which is amazing because New York Supreme Court be on some stuff, y'all. I got thoughts about them sometimes. A lot of times. I was going to say sometimes. That wasn't even true. All the time I got a thought on these people. They be doing some crazy stuff. But that was a very, very important thing that they threw that out. They said, no, you can't have foreigners and illegal aliens that are not American citizens vote in elections. That violates the Constitution. And that's a very serious thing. So if we know that that is an issue, and if we know that they've actually tried to pass legislation to allow illegal aliens and foreigners to vote in American elections in New York City, explain to me, like I'm 5, why we shouldn't have actual voter ID. Explain it to me. We already know, and people are, oh, well, there's not that much fraud. It does not even remotely matter. It's about restoring faith in elections, because I debate you on that whole situation, because the fact of the matter is, in New York State, the election system is totally jacked up. Okay, totally jacked up, with very little oversight and very little accountability for anything. And it's very much so problematic. And Bella says, they don't give a care about us. Bella, you know, you're not wrong. This is a very, very serious point. Because if they've pushed legislation for foreigners to vote in our elections in New York State, what makes you think they won't push it in the rest of the state? What makes you think that they're not trying to let people do that in the rest of the state? You know, that's kind of bananas. Yeah, ID for plowing the snow, but no ID for votes. Exactly that. And it's only snow shoveling too, right? Like, they're not going to give you a plow to drive down the street. So why is ID needed for that? And he was like, he got on the thing. He said, we can't give them paychecks if they don't show us ID. And I'm like, oh, but they can vote without ID? I mean, it's just a hypocritical nonsense that makes people in our nation just be like, I can't stand these people. I don't want to deal with these people, because they don't even stand on what they say that they care about. They don't even stand on what they say that they believe in. And this is something that we have to note, and something that we have to make sure that we as citizens have discourse on. Because again, so many people get wound up in, oh, I'm Republican, Republicans can't do anything wrong. Oh, I'm Democrat, the Democrats can't do anything wrong. Nah. And nobody trying to hear that, bro. I'm going to tell you one time real good how I feel about the government. I want a government so small that it can fit in the palm of my hand and I can crush it if I see fit. Because this is the problem. Our government has gotten too large and too overwhelmingly sizable that it feels that it can do whatever it wants to our citizens at any given time. And it's very much so a serious issue. It's very, very serious, you know. And then we look at stuff that's been going on in our country with this push for socialism, with this push for communism, with this push for Islam in our nation. And I've been having a couple of conversations with some Muslim friends and associates, okay, you know, and I'm like, you guys are twisted because you won't stand up. And they're like, oh, well, how can you say this about Islam or these people or that people? I'm like, listen, let's be very clear. If you guys aren't aware, Saturday, they were in, was it Saturday or Friday? Doesn't matter. Over the weekend, they were in New York City in Times Square, okay, holding up traffic and everything in the middle of the street, acting like they're praying. But they're not praying. What they're doing is showing an act of, how could you say it? Dominance. That's what it is. They're asserting their dominance, because in no Muslim country can you get away with that behavior. What Muslim country? You show me the one Muslim country where they just get out in the middle of the road and do that. Nowhere. Nowhere. It's not a thing. It doesn't happen. And the scary and concerning part about this is when people are like, oh, well, that's anti-Muslim or whatever the case is. Is it? Because this is a new behavior. So where did this new behavior come from? Because there have been Muslims here for years. They've never been doing this. So this is a new behavior. So either these are new Muslims, new people from different countries, or something's up, right? So my question to them, and this is my charge to them, why aren't other Muslims standing up against them? Why aren't other Muslims standing up against them? Make it make sense to me. If you're going to tell me that's not how that works, I'm like, okay, I'll believe you when you stand up against it. Because if you're not standing up against it, then you're telling me that you're perfectly fine with that, that you are going to allow that you essentially are compliant and complacent. So you're in support of it. And I'm not in support of any of that. I'm not going to have some, and here's the issue, you guys. These are foreigners, right? Not like, oh, they came over here and they're here to incorporate themselves in our society, right? Because we've had Muslims here for how long, right? We've had sizable Muslim populations in some areas, right? But they never behave this way. So where is the accountability? You're telling me that this isn't everybody. Where is the accountability internally for that? Right? There is none. Why? Why isn't there any internal accountability for that? Why are no Muslims holding these Muslims accountable? You must be supporting it. That's all I can see. Because you won't speak against it. Why won't you speak against it? This is these people coming to our country and asserting their dominance. Now, let me be very clear on this important issue. This seems to very much so be segmented to a certain group of Muslims, to the Saracens, right? Specifically the Saracens, not the Persians, even to a lesser extent, not the North Africans, but definitely not the Indonesians that are Muslim, just the Saracens, you know, the Levantish area there. Okay. Why? Why is that? Why can't we have that conversation? And why is it anti-Islam or anti-Muslim when you have that conversation? These people are out here trying to assert their dominance over us, doing stuff that they'd never get away with in a Muslim country. That's insane. That's insane. And mostly, and this is the kicker and the killer part to me, mostly it's white liberal women that are going around saying, oh, this is okay, da 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 da. Somebody said there are 4 different denominations. I'm guessing that you're saying that's 4 different denominations of Islam. Is that what you're saying? Sunni, Shiite, I don't know if there are 2 other ones, if that's what you're saying. But I don't see any of them standing up to any of this nonsense. And I could get further into that. I could talk about the whole situation for an hour. But I'm not going to say on that because I got some other stuff I want to talk about. But I don't know if you know there are 2 other ones other than Sunni and Shiite. I'm not familiar. Please list those. Okay. Because I try to explain to people, like, these aren't Nation of Islam Muslims, right? And these aren't traditional American Muslims that we've had for generations, because they don't behave that way. This is a new strain of individuals, largely from these Saracen nations. I call them the sand nations because they ain't got nothing but sand. Like I said earlier, it's not the Indonesian Muslims coming over here acting a fool. Okay. It's not the sub-Saharan Africans coming over here with that nonsense, even though some of them are starting to get recruited by these Saracens, even though the Saracens don't like none of them because they don't like no darkies. That's a whole nother conversation. Like, it's very frustrating and so disrespectful to our nation. And we need to take note of that. You know, it's so disrespectful, it makes me want to spit. It's frustrating. We need our nation not to be disrupted by foreigners, not to be disrupted by foreign cultures, and not to be disrupted by foreign interests. And with the foreign interest situation, let's get into this whole, what was it called? The key that Trump gave Netanyahu over the weekend. He said it's the key to the White House. Trump gave Netanyahu the key to the White House. Netanyahu is a horrible human being. And this has zero to do with Israel. I want to be very clear on that. This is zero to do with Israel, zero to do with Jews or anything like that. You want to have that conversation? That's a different conversation than what I'm having right now. This is specifically about Benjamin Netanyahu. Every chance this man gets, he does something to go against what is in the U.S.'s best interest. Every chance Netanyahu gets, he does his best to punk the United States of America like we're some pansy penons. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Like, that man is a bad man. Look at what he has done in Israel to the Israeli people. Okay, taking away their liberties and rights and trying to reconstruct the way the judiciary works so he can do whatever he wants. Like, that's crazy. And if we want to talk about that, we can also talk about how they've been trying to get him over the issue with October 7th because they had the information, but then he didn't tell nobody. And that's why his what's the guy's name? Oh my goodness, I forget his name. Anyway, the guy that was in charge of the military thing there, that's why he stepped down, because somebody had to take the blame and Netanyahu wasn't going to take the blame. And if you think that Netanyahu doesn't know everything that moves in Israel, you are mistaken. Homeboy's been a spy, been Mossad since Mossad been a Mossad. Okay, he been a spy since a spy been a spy, the same way Putin been a spy since a spy been a spy. Okay? And this man completely serves his own personal interests, not the people of his nation. Okay, his own personal interests, his own personal views, and what he wants to get done himself. It's not about his own country, and it's definitely not about the United States of America. So for Trump to say, "Oh, I'm giving you the key to the White House," it's like the key to America. I don't want that man to have the key to the White House, nor do I want that man to have the key to our nation, because he's already manipulating so many of our politicians, and we can't even talk about it. Then they try to push this ridiculous anti-Semitism bill talking about us as Christians can't say that the Jews killed Jesus when they did. Not only did they forsake him, and at the time, like, they weren't even considered to be, it wasn't even considered Judaism at the time, which is a whole nother deeper conversation, which we're not going to get into today because there's too many other topics I want to talk about. But we can't have that conversation. Why not? Because they're trying to perfect and cultivate a specific narrative. There's a lady, and I think we talked about it last week, but she was doing the congressional overview thing into the religion and stuff like that. And she was like, as a Catholic, I can't be a Zionist. You can't, because Catholic teachings is that the people that were in that region were cast out of that region, never to return. It is a punishment of the Lord our Father. You know, like, why would you preach anything different or teach anything different? Like, it's right there. You understand what I'm saying? But the crazy thing is, these people that practice no known form of religion, like Netanyahu, because let's be honest, he doesn't practice anything that looks like Judaism. He definitely doesn't practice anything like a traditional Hebrew would. Like, can we have those conversations? And Judaism came after the death and destruction of the temple, because it's rabbinical. Okay, and that's a whole separate conversation. But we can't have that conversation. So when you got these people running around talking about, oh, this is anti-Semitism if you say that the Jews killed Jesus, but they did. They did. They did. They turned him in because they didn't like what he was saying, and they killed that man. The man came to save them and to lead them back to the Father. What'd they do? They didn't want him, so they got rid of him, because he was challenging their own personal individual authority. And perish the thought that you challenge the powerful that are in power to actually hold them to account for hypocrisy and things that go against the laws that they claim to uphold. This is the problem. This is the problem. And that, if you look at the Bible, and I need to be very clear on this, if you look at the Bible, that was the whole thing when Jesus came. When Jesus came, his whole issue was that these people say that they are upholding my Father's law, and they don't. And they don't. And they killed this man for talking about that, you know, and for healing people on the Sabbath, right? You know, like, this is crazy. But this is where we are. And now we've got people who aren't even anything that you would consider religious. Like, I don't know if he worships the devil or whatever the case is, but he definitely doesn't practice Judaism like that at all. Excuse me. And he doesn't practice anything else. He's definitely not a Hebrew. So what exactly is he practicing? He's secular. He supports abortion. He supports alphabetism. How can you say that you practice Judaism? Isn't Judaism supposed to be against that? No, because now when you see these crazy people, again, like they don't have any religion at all. You see these crazy people on the TV and stuff like that. They're like, abortion is part of the Jewish religion. What? Show it to me in the Torah. Where'd you get that from? Alphabetism and homosexuality is part of the Jewish religion. What? Show it to me in the Torah. It's not there because you done made some crackpot nonsense up because you're not really practicing what you were given from God. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. And you're not about to sit here and convince me that that is that and that is what it is not. That's why there are so many American Jews and other people in other places. And this isn't me saying anything in particular is like they're the best religion, but it points out comparatively to these other people that are over here in power. It's the key point is in power and behind the scenes maneuver and stuff. They don't believe that nonsense. A lot of them don't think that they should be over there. Why? Because that's what it teaches in the Torah. Okay? The temple was destroyed for a reason. Why? Because they didn't listen. They were scattered to the four current corners of the earth because they didn't listen. And that was their eternal punishment. And if they could get right, maybe the Lord would show them forgiveness, but they don't want to have that conversation. So as we have this conversation about Trump giving Netanyahu this ridiculous key to the White House, I'm not happy about that, y'all. I'm not happy at all. And this is a problem. We need to get rid of the foreign interests in our nation. We need to get rid of these foreigners that are out here trying to force their culture on our society out of the country. Have you heard that now in New York City, they're trying to ban dogs? That now in part of Minneapolis and part of Minnesota, they're trying to ban dogs because the Muslims don't like dogs. So now your little Labradoodle is gone. Your little Chihuahua is gone. You know, like, I mean, and again, it's usually the liberal white women that push these type of things forward. You know? And they're like, oh, well, you know, it's the Handmaid's Tale. Trump's going to issue in the Handmaid's Tale. And here you are supporting cultures and quasi-religions that actually are exactly like the Handmaid's Tale. Like, somebody make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. Drop a comment, hit the like button, hit the share button, get this out there, because we need to have these important conversations. You know, it's very frustrating and very upsetting to watch what's going on in our nation and the fact that we can't have real conversations about it. Now, I really would have liked to talk about a number of other things in relation to the economy and stuff right now, but after the Supreme Court just the other day shut down the tariffs that were under EPA, EEPA, is it 3 E's or is it two E's? EEAP, right? So under IEPA, they shut down those tariffs, saying that that you can't do that essentially because it was too broad, right? Now, I disagree with, I think it was 6 of the 9 judges that came to that decision, right? But it's by majority rule. And John Roberts wrote a decision in relation to that, and he said something very interesting. And he was like, you know, this won't even really limit the president's ability to put tariffs on anything. So their whole ruling about the tariffs really didn't do that much. And this was the problem, because what happened with the tariffs and the situation with that is all it did was harm our credibility in holding other people to account. And we need that ability to hold these people to account. Why? Because a lot of people across this world have been doing America dirty. They've been doing America wrong. And the president was using these tariffs as tools to get them in order. Now, I want to really jump into them a little bit more, but If you're listening on the radio, tell your friends, tune in to The Divide with Marcus C. Williams, Mondays, 2:30 to 4 p.m. And if you guys are online, hit the share button, hit the like button. It don't cost you nothing. If you do want to support the show and you're online, the sides right there, okay, or down below if you're vertical, that's how you can help. And please go to patreon.com and Rochester Free Radio, and you can donate to the station there. The station is working on raising $6,000. Right now, they're doing a fundraising drive because we are kept on air by viewers and listeners like you. All right, so let's get into this, right? So these tariffs that were put in place were very much so important when it comes to, well, what would you say? Keeping people in check, right? The tariffs were important in keeping people in check. So China wasn't quite acting right. We're going to throw a tariff at them, slap them in the head a little bit. Okay, India ain't doing right. We're going to throw a tariff, hit them in the head a little bit. You know, remove them if we feel like it. Don't remove them if we don't. But some of them were industry specific in relation to different things. Like China got hit with tariffs because they were flooding the market with a lot of cheap products, like on Xi'an and what's the other one? Temu. Xi'an and Temu. So Trump slapped tariffs on them. The de minimis rule, right? Because anything under $800, basically you didn't have to pay any tariffs or taxes or anything on for imports, right? Imports or duties. So China was taking advantage of that. So that put a lot of local retailers out of business, a lot of small retailers that were dependent on those markets out of business, like Forever 21 and other small stores like that, whose whole thing was low cost, mid-level fashion, right? Like people don't think about this. And when those businesses close, that's also jobs. Hello. So they got all of these people out there talking about, oh, Trump is mean by doing that. This is not nice. He shouldn't be doing that. These tariffs are hurting our business. Okay, but what is your larger concept of what is being done when it comes to tariffs? Why are the tariffs in place? What are they doing? And how are they helping? Are they helping? Are they not helping? Or is it just you that you're talking about? So like some people were mad about the coffee, right? And that was a problem because coffee was going up, but mostly coffee was going up because people don't know why coffee is going up because they don't pay attention. It rained too much, right? It rained too much. Shipping is an issue. There's a ton of different issues why coffee went up. Coffee wasn't growing as good this year. So those are two big ones. Coffee wasn't growing that well, and it rained too much and destroyed a lot of the crops. So that was a big issue. So what about the tariffs? It must be the tariffs harming us, right? But no, it's not really, you know. And then other people that buy stuff from China a lot are like, oh, well, we're buying stuff from China and now it's costing us more. Why are you buying stuff from China? Why are you not buying American-made goods? Oh, because we make more profit. We make more profit with the goods from China. Okay, you make more profit with the goods from China. Makes sense. That's really sensible, right? You want to maximize your profit. But what happens when you do that, right? American businesses and people suffer. Now, this is a serious problem. You would think that we could actually have that conversation, but no, you can't. I'm trying to be very nice because I feel really some type of way because there's just so much. I can cover a whole show on just the tariffs and their impacts alone. Because of the tariffs, looking at fast fashion like Xi'an, Temu, and stuff like that, it really helped shore up our localized, national chains, small chains, and stuff like that did that type of merchandising in retail because they were being eviscerated. That's why so many places were closing down. And that's something that we need to have a conversation about. And people would always say, oh, yeah, well, it's because more and more people are shopping online. Yeah, but what you don't know is those retailers are largely getting most of their merchandise from China, and they're marketing it up a very minimum amount because China's not paying any tariffs on them because of the rate of amount that they're buying in. But I mean, hey, that's something that we can't talk about. Because why? If you talked about it, it'll be too much like right. It'll be too much like right. And I'll leave you with this particular thought on the tariffs, and then we'll move on. Those tariffs that were previously in place, right? It only makes it so you can't address individual nations, right? And that was what was needed under that, right? We needed to address individual nations because some nations are more favorable to us than others. Like China's a big dickhead, okay? And then you got India is really bad at that too. So when it comes to that, that helped us a lot with them. It helped us a lot with other people to negotiate other trade deals and stuff like that, where we've came out to benefit a lot more. But they try to take that away. Now I understand, I hear them, I disagree with what they've done on the Supreme Court, but I understand their concept. Okay? I understand their concept. They're like, oh, well, it should be done through Congress or whatever because it's really taxes or this, that, and the third. Okay. I hear you. Now, what happens to the money that was collected from those tariffs? Nobody knows because it wasn't in there. It wasn't in there. I read a report from CNN that said, oh, it should be like $1,700 that everybody should get back because of the tariffs. How do you come up with a calculation like that? You can't come up with a calculation like that. That's not physically possible. That's not physically possible. Okay. So how can you come up with a thing like that? You can't. So they're just pulling stuff out of the air. And then you go and you look at things like Trump was going to do the $2,500. This hopefully should have been this summer, right around time for the election, do the $2,500 checks for the actual tariffs because of the tariffs, right? So that would have been really awesome. Now those people, the same people that are like, oh, well, you deserve a refund. Excuse me, blowing my nose. The same people that are like, oh, well, you deserve a refund are also the same people that are now like, a couple months ago, were like, oh, well, where's the money that Trump said that he's going to give everybody? Really? The money was always supposed to come at the second quarter and the end of the second quarter or the third quarter of 2026. But with those tariffs removed, I don't know that they're going to be able to have those tariff checks. I don't know that they would be able to have that. But here you are saying everybody deserves a $1,700 check. I'd have preferred the $2,500 check to a $1,700 check. And then if I do math and I look, okay, I say, if right now he's been in office a year, Liberation Day wasn't a whole year ago, and you're telling me it's $1,700, but you're saying that if it would have been in the end of the second quarter or third quarter this year, it would have been $2,500. That'd have been a lot more money compared to now. So what are you talking about? So what they're telling me in my head when I'm hearing them say this out loud is that we would have gotten all our money back anyway. We would have gotten all our money back anyway, plus some pocket change, according to them, not according to my maths. My maths is them people are crazy, but according to their maths, right? So what even are we doing? I want to jump over to France real quick. I know we were talking about the Winter Olympics in Italy, but I want to jump over to France. Something really crazy kind of happened over there. So this guy, his name is, I want to say it's Quentin. Is it Quentin? Quint? Whatever his name is, right? Anyway, this guy was Quentin de Ranqui. If y'all can pronounce that better than me, drop some of how to pronounce that in there. Quentin de Ranqui, however you pronounce his name, was a French activist that was conservative and trying to restore French values or whatever the case. I don't know what values France has, I'm very American, and for me as an American, French are always snooty and hooty-tooty. Okay, so But anyway, he was considered to be conservative when it came to France and tried to restore what France was supposed to be about and their traditions and stuff like that, whatever. But he was saving this lady that was getting attacked by the far left Antifa type that were over there, and they beat him to death. They beat him to death. He was saving the lady because they were beating up the lady, and they beat him to death. And this happened in Lyon. That's how you say it. So why isn't that all over the American news? First they killed Charlie Kirk. Now they killed this guy. I guess he's like the French Charlie Kirk, except not as good, because they're French. I'm doing a little light levity in a serious situation, but also throwing some jabs at the French just because I got issues with the country. Because they've caused every war that we've ever been in is because of the French. If you guys don't know, you really got to start digging into that. They're just as bad as the bankers. But anyway, so they killed this man who was saving this lady that was being attacked by Antifa in France. And now they're not really trying to do anything about it because, what's his name? Macron and his husband, wife, okay, who looks like Gigantor, okay, they're over there running stuff and they don't care or like anybody that wants to stand up for the actual French people. They prefer all of their migrants from all of the sand countries in Africa. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So now this young man is dead, okay? And it's so sad because I guess he's a French patriot, is patriotic as a French person can be. Again, another dig at France, but still, I'm sad that guy he was saving somebody, right? Like he was saving somebody else from being beaten and they beat that man to death. God bless him. I hope he knew Christ. So for real, this is crazy. They continue to attack more and more people that would be conservative or patriots in westernized countries. And we're just supposed to let that go. We're just supposed to be like, oh, that's okay. It's not a problem. It's not an issue. And just watch them attack our people and go after our people. This is a serious issue. We got to start standing up and we got to stand up more. And I feel so bad for this Quentin guy and his family and his followers. And I feel bad for Charlie Kirk and all of his followers over here. Conservatives are consistently under attack. And we as a group of individuals get no help, no concern, and no show of favor. But let somebody prick a little leftist balloon, and then it's the end of the world. Oh, did you see how mean they were? Did you see everything that they did? But they're actually out here killing conservatives and killing patriots in westernized society, and nobody will say anything. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And I am very fully aware that at some point I might pass on because of it. But Lord bless, that never happens. But I am completely resigned to the fact that me trying my best to save our nation and drive it forward in a better direction, that might be something that comes. I don't want that to happen, but I understand. In addition to that, I am very concerned that at some point they will send the trains after us. And they'll put people on trains and send them off to internment camps. We'll talk about that on another episode. We've talked about it in the past, but not recently. But these are the conversations about the important things that we need to have. Somebody commented, somebody says, where is this? Somebody says, what's that say? We are not the Democrats cherish the legal. What does that say? Oops. Too many comments coming in too fast. All right. So we are not the Democrats cherish the illegals. I don't get that statement, but I get the sentiment. Okay. Somebody says Americans love their Timu overlords. That's true. That's true because they don't care about the cheap prices and the impact on our society. That's a very important comment that we need to think about. It's about power and extortion. That's exactly what it's about. The point of the tariffs was to bring back jobs to the United States of America. That's exactly what it was. And we need to have that conversation because they don't care. All of our manufacturing, let me tell you, and let me go back to the tariffs for a second, and we'll come back to this conservatives under attack. The tariffs have helped jumpstart the heart of our manufacturing industry. For the first time in decades, our manufacturing industry is growing in all factors. And now they're taking these tariffs off, and that is a problem. Not a huge problem, but a very large problem. And now we're going to have to end up figuring out how to address it because a lot of it just gives the people that are anti-America more power. You know, they feel very full of themselves and stuff like that. It's a very serious issue. Let's see. We got a couple more comments in here. Sorry, you guys. There's a lot of comments coming in at one time, so it's hard for me to pull them all up. Sorry about that. So many comments. All right, but I appreciate all the comments. You guys are fantastic with comments today. We've got hundreds and hundreds of comments. Do drop a comment. I'll try to pop you up there if I can. There are so many coming in. I appreciate it because they all help. They all help. Okay. So now somebody said, oh, well, we've lost a lot of jobs in manufacturing. I guess that's what they're trying to say under Trump. Okay. I need you to go and I need you to look at the numbers because you're talking about jobs, right? I'm talking about output and factories. We're having two different conversations. So all of these jobs, we've talked about this on the last episode. You must have missed our last episode. This is part of the issue with the automation, and we need to be very, very concerned about that. Somebody said we have a ton of investors coming in. Yes, we do. Because America's hot right now for foreign investors to invest in because we're restoring our headship as a nation in the world. You know, the U.S. runs stuff. We are breaking down every asset that China has outside of China. We took Venezuela from them. We're about to take Cuba. We're trying to break down Panama and get the Panama Canal back from China too. We got Nicaragua. Not all of it, but we're going to take the rest of that back too. Okay. So we're breaking down their options outside of themselves. And even you look at Iran, Iran's ready to break soon. Ukraine is broke. Okay. If you didn't know, a lot of the stuff going on with Ukraine also had to do with China too, because China owned the leases to the majority of their farmland, which is a whole nother conversation that none of us can have because they don't want you to have real conversations about what happened in Ukraine. At the end of the day, a large portion of what a lot of the moves are that the U.S. is doing across the world has to do with China, either against China or to shore up our protection from China or to hold together certain issues and stuff like that. Somebody said Cuba was a rich country before a leftist dictator took it over. Well, but that's always the pattern. That's always the pattern. We have these leftists that take over the government and they run it into the ground and they enrich themselves and they deplete everybody else's pockets. It's exactly what's going on in New York City right now. It's exactly the same. You know, this guy got in power and promised you all this free stuff, but at the free stuff, there's an expense because somebody got to pay for it. So, I mean, hey. Now, as we have these important conversations, we have to also talk about the fact that going back to conservatives being under attack in the U.S. and abroad, Marco Rubio did a speech at, I want to say it was the Munich Security Conference. I'm pretty sure it was the Munich Security Conference last week. It was a fantastic speech, by the way. I encourage you to go look it up. But he kept talking about the Western world, the Western world, the Western world. And essentially, the Western world is any type of thing where it seems to favor kind of a Europe-ish, American-centric type of hegemony, right? And this is real serious, right? Because I love my country. I want the whole world to be like America, okay? I want the whole world to be America. No, I'm joking. I'm also serious, okay? People say, "Oh, this, oh, that." Listen, I'm an imperialist. Don't get it twisted. Imperial America, the American Empire. Long live the empire. May the empire thrive and take more land. Okay, don't play with me. Okay, that's why when people are like, "America is an imperialist nation," lies. Don't threaten me with a good time. Somebody said the U.S. is the third richest country. Is that what that's supposed to say? And they're like, "Oh, well, it doesn't have this and it doesn't have that." And the question is, how do you pay for those things? Because I was just watching this leftist that so-called escaped to Canada. They fled to Canada on a visa for a visitor's visa, and they're like, "Oh, the healthcare system here is terrible. Everything costs too much, and the cost of living is crazy, even worse than in the U.S." So you show me where this stuff is working out so good at that you're complaining that we don't have in the U.S. Miss me with that noise. Somebody says $2 gas is great. Well, but this is exactly what's happening. These things take time, you guys. These things take time. And when you look at states like mine, New York State, I love my state. Can't stand these people in the assembly, the Senate, or the governor. Okay, they are destroying our state, and they have been for some years. Okay, and even that goes in my local municipality. These people are destroying everything. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that even with Trump's energy policy and stuff, we can't get lower energy costs, and the gas is barely moving down. It's actually moved down a considerable amount. But I want $2 gas. Okay, our gas is still like $2.98 or something like that, $2.80. I didn't check today, but it's still up there. In other states, it's way down. Also, we don't have one refinery in New York State. Why is that? Why can't we have a refinery here? Can we have those conversations? You know, I also learned over the last, about a month ago, I learned that there's oil in Lake Ontario, right up here up the street from me. There's oil there. Did you know there was oil in Lake Ontario? And Canada's mining the oil out of the ground. I don't know what you call that. Oil exploration? Is it still considered mining? Anyway, they're taking the oil out of the lake. How come we're not doing that? What's going on here? What's going on here? Somebody said California, the gas is $5. California, the gas is about to be $10. I just saw that Shell oil is about to move out of California because all the costs are too high and the regulations are too crazy, which is crazy because you wouldn't think that one of the biggest production things in California is oil, but California's got a lot of oil. Okay. After gold and before gold, oil was what it was in California. So that's a big deal. A lot of these weird buildings and stuff that they have in Los Angeles are oil. Are those oil things that pump the oil out of the ground. But we can't have those conversations, and these are the important conversations we need to have because a lot of people don't know that. But what's happening there, again, going back to New York where I live, is a lot of what's happening here. Somebody said lots of oil. Lots and lots of oil, brother. So what is happening in New York State? We've got all of this awesome natural gas. They don't want us to use the natural gas. Don't use the natural gas. Why? Why not use a natural resource that we know is clean burning and one of the best, most plentiful, low expense fuels that we have ever had? Like, come on. Why are you punishing our citizens? Why are you punishing our citizens? This is really, really serious. And we can't have these conversations. Again, I was like, wow, when I found out that they drill for oil in Lake Ontario. Right up there, not up there, but over here. Anyway, it don't matter, right up the street. But we can't in America because of the laws in New York State. So how much would that drive down our prices? Can we have these conversations? We should be. But they try to blame everything on the president and say, oh, everything is the president's fault. But you go to a red state, they don't have the problems that we have here. They don't have the problems that they have in California. They don't have the problems that they got in Washington state. Why is that? Somebody said, am I a tycoon? No, not yet. But if they open up that oil drilling, boy, howdy, how do I get a permit? Okay. But this is serious. This is really serious. Right now, we're in an energy crisis in many states, but it's almost solely in blue states. Why? Because we've had a lot of bad legislation that has been passed that has made energy more expensive, and they try to put it off on the energy companies. Oh, it's the energy companies. Oh, it's the energy companies. Okay. And this is a serious problem because it's a trick by the state assembly and the state senate to trick people into focusing on the wrong direction when really it's them who have continued to put these terrible policies in place, like shutting down pipelines, shutting down nuclear reactors, and all other types of things that are increasing our energy costs, shutting down permitting and stuff like that. They're the ones hurting us. It's not the president. And then on the top of that, like I always try to tell you guys, the president can't even do that much. It's usually the local or state level that's really ramming you in with the ramrod. Okay? That's what we need to have the real conversations about. That's why I always encourage you guys, get active locally. I don't care whether it's school board, city council, okay, fire district, county ledge, whatever, something that is interesting to you, get involved and start getting active. Because if we want to see a change, going out here and blaming the president is not going to change or help or do anything, okay? Because the president don't do half of nothing, and it's largely Congress that really controlled the power. But in blue states, our issues are not what they have in other red states because of the terrible regulations. That's why I'm very big on deregulation, and I'm happy to see what's going on in this administration. I don't love everything this administration does. And if you guys heard the beginning of this program, that was one of the things that I'm very not happy about right now. Two of them, actually, we talked about. But a lot of the deregulation, a lot of the pulling back all of these different departments, that is really good for our country. And even if people don't like the tariffs and the different things that are going on, this stuff takes time. It is not an overnight solution. These things take a year or 2 years for you to start seeing what's going on and putting the whole picture together. That's why all of this foreign investment that's flowing into our country is absolutely fantastic to help restore our manufacturing, to help shore up our new plants for microchips and all of this and all of that. We got a beautiful future coming if people get out of the way of the president and start letting him actually do what he's trying to do. And largely it's Congress. And I don't like everything. I'm a big supporter of Thomas Massey, so don't get it twisted. And I like Chip Roy too. Okay? Stand on constitutional values, stand on conservative values. But when stuff is going good in the right direction, that's what we need to focus on. If you're tuned in online, or rather on the radio, thank you guys for tuning into the show. We'll catch you next week. All right, you guys, we are online only right now. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. This is a lot of important conversations that we've had today. I only have about an hour and a half a day every Monday with you guys. So I try to get out everything that we can. There's a ton of other topics I wanted to go through, but I am very concerned that we see more and more conservatives attacked every single day, every single month. We just had, and you know, one of the important things I didn't get to cover in the main part of the show, these trans shooters, right? We just had a trans shooter shoot up the school in Canada. Where did that get on the news? 5 seconds flash, you know? Then we had another trans shooter shoot up somewhere else in where was it the other day? I don't even remember. That's how bad it was. But you have these trans shooters, like we had like 16 trans school shooters in like the last couple of years just in the US. Now we got the trans shooter up there in Canada. Now we got another one. Like, why? When are we going to talk about this? We got the guy who was a trans that killed his wife and his son at the hockey game. Can we talk about that? Like these people are on hormones and medication and this and that and the third, and it's really distorting them. And people are feeding them all of this nonsense, having them identify as something that they're not born as, and it's really warping their mind and it's hurting them. It's hurting them bad. So then they're more easily manipulated. They're more easily turned into doing stuff and encouraged into doing stuff that they normally wouldn't because they're so self deceived, okay, and given into deception, okay, and that they're like, I can do whatever I want and just do it, you know? And how much is going into actually this industry? They call it, what is it, trans healthcare or whatever they're calling it these days. Somebody knows what it is. Put it in the comments. I can't even keep. Gender affirming care. There we go. Thank you. But it's billions and billions of dollars, billions and billions of dollars into these different groups and stuff like that. And that is a serious problem. And we can't talk about that. My city has the University of Rochester Strong, okay, and they do most of, I believe it's the largest amount of gender transition surgeries in children in the country. Terribly concerning, terribly concerning. And very few people speak up against it and anything like that. But they're manipulating these people, they're harming their minds, and then we see all of these people that are all drugged up and disoriented and completely out of whack going and shooting up school shootings. And then you look at all the other school shooters previous to this, like in the last couple of years, this like only been trans people shooting that up. And I'm only saying that because I don't even want to call them trans people because that's not even a thing. It's either you're a man or you're a woman, you're a male or you're a female, you're a boy, you're a girl. It's not this that you were born in the wrong body. That is an affront to God and nature. Okay, you take your pick or both. Like, can we have a serious conversation about that? No. No, we can't. And that's a big issue. Because as long as these pushes to encourage young people to believe things that are clearly incorrect when it comes to nature and reality, it's going to continue to warp impressionable minds. And when people can't justify reality, they can't, what do you call it? They can't basically reason out what reality is. You know, it's not matching with what they're feeling or seeing or experiencing. Then that kind of drives people mad. And we should be able to have that, but we can't even talk about that. I'm glad that there are many places that are starting to stop those things and stuff like that. But if we want to talk about real issues, because every time you see a school shooting or something, they talk about take the guns or whatever the case is. But when we used to have more guns in circulation and guns were in the back of everybody's car window with rifles and stuff like that, we didn't have these shootings. Now we do. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. We didn't used to have it like this. Now we do. How did that happen? Because they started over medicating people. They took God out of all the schools. They took God out of everything. They took riflery and firearms training out of schools. And then we got a whole bunch of school shootings. You know, it's like, where does it start and where does it end? Somebody said, somebody sent me a meme the other day, and it was a slippery slope. And it started off at we want to get what was it? Was it we want civil unions? And then it went all the way down to now, because the slippery slope, it had a couple of different things on there. We want civil unions, we want to get married, naked people at pride parades, teaching kids about drag queen story hour, and then the slope keeps going down and down and down and down. And now it says like boys can be girls, girls can be boys, and you can be a dog. And it's like that, but that's where we are though. But that's where we are. That's not fake. That's exactly what happened. And if you look at it like that, your question would be, well, where are we going to go from here? And it's very clear that we're not going in a good direction. That's why we need to restore our nation to Christianity. And I know not all of you are Christian, but I encourage you, if you're not Christian, to go look into Jesus, his teachings, and read the New Testament. and may you find Christ, and hopefully he can point you to the Lord our Father, because that's what's happened in our nation. Our nation was founded on Christian values and Christian principles. We've gotten so far away from them. Now everything is topsy-turvy, upside down. This is a very, very, very troubling time that we're in. And the only way that we're going to be able to turn back and save our nation is if we turn to Christ, repent for everything our country has been doing, and pray to be saved. Because we can turn back from where we are right now, and we can be saved and we can be forgiven as a nation. But we've got to start standing up wholeheartedly, because if not us, then who? If not now, then when? That's why we have to take action. It's got to be now. It's got to be today. Start little by little. Tell your friends, preach the gospel a little bit, tell them about Jesus, but more so than that, assure them of the values of the Bible, right? Like, that's the big thing. I was talking to somebody who's not religious at all about the 10 Commandments and how valuable they are as far as rules of life. And if most people just stuck to the 10 Commandments, we wouldn't have half of the problems that we have in our society. And it's more than half, really. It's like 98%, like we wouldn't have those issues. But we can't have those conversations. This is a serious, serious, serious issue. And now we've got all of these other people coming to our country, largely these Saracens, pushing Islam on everybody. And it's crazy. And you hear them when Christian talks, like, oh, well, separation of church and state. Go tell that to the Muslims, yo. Go tell that to the Muslims. Go tell that to the Jews, yo. Go tell that to the Hindus. Tell that to the Sheiks. Tell that to anybody else. Don't tell me that as a Christian, because you don't tell everybody else that. It just shows me that you hate Jesus and you hate the Lord our Father, because if you deny the Son, you deny the Father. And this is serious. If we're going to fix our country, the only solution is Jesus Christ. And that's the way that we move forward. I'll catch you guys later. Please make sure you hit like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to support, on the sides right there, you can support Cash App, MW, $MW Real One. You can also do PayPal or Venmo, and that's at Marcus C. Williams. And if you're on vertical, you can look right down below. It'll show you right there. Please donate and help us get this message out there. Help us get more airtime. We got this, but we're going to need your help to save our nation. Y'all be blessed and be well. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action.